Good evening. I'm Jason Chaffetz in for Laura Ingraham, and welcome to this Ingraham Angle special, The Left and Lawlessness. We've got an incredible show for you tonight with example after example of liberals ignoring the law when it served their political interests. The GOP has always been the party of law and order, but we're in uncharted territory when it comes to the left. Whether it's sanctuary cities, decriminalizing drugs, or failing to stop rampant crime in places like San Francisco or Chicago, the left routinely puts ideology over the need to enforce the laws on the books. And we start tonight with more examples of Americans victimized by crimes by illegal immigrants. The latest on FoxNews.com right now, an Illinois judge slamming officials for failing to enforce a 2012 ICE detainer against illegal immigrant Miguel Luna, who was later able to beat and rape 3 women. Mr. Luna was sentenced to 80 years in prison on Monday. Let me tell you about 2 more stories. Sad stories, tragic stories. Haley King was just 18 years old when in November of 2016, she was fatally hit by a speeding truck. The driver, an illegal immigrant named Sergio Rodriguez. He didn't stop after the accident because he feared being deported. And it doesn't get more tragic than this. Dimitri Smith lived for just 1 minute outside her mother's womb. He was delivered in an emergency C-section after an illegal immigrant crashed into his mother's car in New Mexico in 2012. Haley's mother, Kathy Hall, as well as Dimitri's mother, Eileen Smith, both joined me to share their stories. They're sitting side by side there. Eileen, Kathy, I appreciate you coming on the show, and our heart goes out to everybody who goes through this. As a parent myself, I can't even imagine the sadness that has gone through your family, and we appreciate your taking these moments and being brave enough to come share your stories and your perspective, because I think this country, you have more of a voice than anybody like myself or somebody who hasn't been through this. So Kathy, again, I'm so sorry you went through this, but Donald Trump has brought a lot of attention to the status, the illegal immigrant status. Is that the right thing to do? Are we doing the right thing by talking about the status of these people?
I believe so. My daughter would still be here today if the man would have stopped, if he would have been here legally. I think that if the American public isn't aware of how many cases there actually are and what's going on, Donald Trump isn't going to be able to get anywhere with it.
And Eileen, in your situation, we talk sometimes about the status, illegal, illegal. Sometimes people will argue, hey, that's not really not cogent part of the discussion. But what's your perspective? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think his immigration status or his citizenship status has a lot to say about policy implications going forward and how we handle these kinds of things. You know, if there is a deportation in the mix of this, or if we need ICE detainers or not, that's really important. So as far as policy going forward, we definitely need to look at these cases and include their immigration status.
I mean, first and foremost, we want to remember those kids whose lives were taken far, far too early. But in the case of locking down the border and the immigration policies that move forward, Kathy, what would you like to see happen? What is the right thing that the United States of America should do?
You know, we had a situation with my daughter's case. I've kind of been on both areas of the fence with this one. The borders need to be locked down. When they come over here illegally, they do commit crimes to stay here illegally. You know, I think that if we don't do something about the issue there, it's going to go well beyond the families that you are having on the show. My granddaughter was removed, given to a family that was not us after my daughter died. We are still fighting today to try to get my granddaughter back home with her family where she needs to be. But, you know, so I've had both sides of this issue. My daughter should be here. Eileen's son should be here. Many, many, many other mothers and fathers, and it's going to be a lot more if we don't stop what's going on now.
Eileen, one of the public policy discussions people in Congress are debating, you hear Democrats say that we should get rid of ICE, that Immigration Customs Enforcement should just be abolished. There's some that want more open borders. How do you react to that?
I think I should start by saying that I'm not anti-immigrant. You know, my grandfather came here to America in 1955 and became a citizen in 1960. But those who are coming in illegally and committing further crimes need to be readdressed. And I think this is something that we can easily correct. I don't think anybody in their right mind would sit there and say that we need to abolish ICE. They keep our country safe. God bless those men and women.
Yeah,
I agree.
it's so true. Kathy, Eileen, I want to give you just at each a moment, but tell us about your loss and how you want us to remember how do you want us to remember Haley, for instance?
You know, Haley was the youngest of 4 children. She was always happy, laughing, loved everybody. She was hard of hearing, and she could play music beautifully. But there wasn't anybody in this world that Haley wouldn't have put her hand out to help if they needed it. And I just, you know, if anything could ever be considered good coming out of this, I'm hoping that her story will get out there and help save some other lives.
And Eileen, what can you tell us about Dimitri and what you were going through at that time as a young mother?
Dimitri was my first child. He was incredible, fully formed, 10 fingers, 10 toes, had my nose, had my husband's hair and chin, fit from elbow to fingertip. That's how big he was when I got to hold him before giving him off to OMI. He was greatly anticipated by my family. It was one of the first babies that we had had in decades, and he's sorely missed by his family.
Thank you for sharing your stories. I want to each give you one more chance. If you want to say something to people who serve in Congress, who are public policy makers, maybe let's start with you, Eileen, first, and then Kathy. What would you say to them?
Well, we are doing the Angel Families Rally in September in D.C., so please join us for that. A lot of new Angel moms are going to be there. People who, you know, previously didn't get their story out because they were wrapped up in legal proceedings and things like that. So it would be very informative for sure.
That's good.
In addition to that, you know, wanting to see further legislation to make sure that these people who are committing heinous acts are deported.
Kathy?
I agree with Eileen. You know, not all the lawmakers out there are against anything going on. There are some very good ones. There are 2 state representatives, 2 state senators that are helping with our case, and then also Senator Tom Cotton has joined on board, and I'll be meeting with him in D.C. In September also.
Well, again, sorry for your loss, and we appreciate you
Thank
taking
you.
the time and having the strength and fortitude to be able to share your story with others. It's heart-wrenching, and our hearts go out to you, but thank you again for sharing your stories and being with us tonight. May God bless you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for
too.
having us.